Welcome back to another episode of the Bald Brothers Podcast. This is Brendan. I'm with Brad.
What's up, guys?
We got an awesome new episode today. It's all about finding your why, finding your passion.
The real question is that good advice?
It may be. It may not be. Brad, kick it off.
So when people ask you what is your why or what is your passion when it comes to career, I instantly think that is such a heavy question. It's very convoluted. How do you answer that? You know, when somebody hits me off that in a first meeting within the first 5 minutes, my instant reaction is, buy me a drink first. Take me out to dinner. It's such a big question. And it's so popular now through the motivational videos online, on the Instagram, on the motivational speeches. I mean, you name it, everybody's trying to figure out their why and figure out their passion. Have you ever thought about this? And have you ever tried to discover your why or your passion?
I think people are in buckets. I think some people, they're born with a passion. They must do something, and if they're not doing that, they're never going to be happy. And those are the people you read about who say, I've never worked a day in my life because I love what I do. And then there's other people who are just constantly looking for things, trying things, and they may not find their passion until they're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old even. And then there's other people who are living in a world of practicality and don't think that they should even look for their passion. They don't know what they're passionate about, so they just continue on with the daily grind. They go to work, they go home, they watch Netflix, they wake up the next day and they do it all again. But the whole question of what's your passion, find your why in life, does put a lot of pressure on young people, millennials, Gen Zs, even older people. It's a big hot topic now.
I think there's a lot to dissect out of your little spiel.
I like dissecting.
You brought up a quote.
I quoted it.
You brought up a quote. Oh, so it's your quote now.
I mean, what's the quote that I brought up? It's my quote.
If you love what you do, you're never going to work a day in your life.
I flipped it around.
But I hate that advice.
Why?
I think that just, it poisons entrepreneurs. It poisons law students, college students, graduate students, anybody starting something new in their career, because you're not going to love every single second of your job. Work is work. Work is supposed to be hard. Do I love being a real estate attorney? I love aspects of the job. I love being involved with people, putting a transaction from A through Z, and the camaraderie that I build with the agents, the lenders. But do I really, really love looking through a title report and reviewing title abstracts and previous deeds over the past 50, 60 years? No. And are there days where I work with very, very difficult clients or opposing counsel? Yes. So I think that just gets in the mind that, as young entrepreneurs start careers, they work a job and then they have a really bad week. So what does that tell them to do? Oh, I'm going to quit. I guess this is not my dream job. I guess this is not my passion. So they go quit and they bounce around to something else because they're looking for that one job or one thing that's going to make them happy 24/7.
But I don't think young people bouncing around from job to job is necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of young people don't know what they want. And so if they're trying a million different things, instead of just sucking it up for something that their gut's telling them that they don't love, they don't want to do, and then going on to the next thing, I think that's okay. I think people should, when they're young, when they're in their 20s and 30s, should spend time trying things, seeing what they love, seeing what they like at least. You touched on one thing which makes a lot of sense, which is if you're working a job, there's going to be parts of it you don't like. And that's just a matter of life. I mean, you're not going to be in bliss the entire time you're working. I mean, there are rare people, and I think there's a rare few people who are working a job that they are just thrilled about. They wake up every day and they are just pumped to do it.
There are people out there.
Yeah.
And bless them. Because good for them for being able to do that.
And I think people who aren't in that boat should be striving to get in that boat. I don't think you can just cut it off and be like, oh, any job you do, you're not gonna love it. Yeah, you can like it, but whatever. Forget about finding your passion. I think even if you're in a job that you kind of like, there's parts you don't like about it. I still think in your side time and your downtime, you should be trying to find something that you truly are passionate about, because that's one of the human emotions that is the most powerful. So if you can't find something that you're completely passionate about, that you love doing, then keep looking for it. And you could be looking for it your whole life, But the journey, the search for it is going to make you happy, is going to bring you joy, as opposed to just giving up and saying, you know what, I kind of like this. It's making me enough money. I'm just going to do it.
Absolutely. And I think the really important thing to unfold from there is that it's the idea that we're not going to be happy until we find that dream job. And I think a lot of the times people get in that mindset where, to find your passion is, I work day and night, I'm researching online, I'm spending countless areas, research. 5 years go by, 10 years go by. So you're so unfulfilled through this time being that you look back and like, I still haven't found my passion, so I'm not happy. It's like once you reach your passion, what is is life concluded?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are you done? I mean, that sounds terrifying. If somebody said, all right, Brad, once you find your passion and what you really, really love, you're complete, you check all the boxes. That's terrifying.
And you brought up another point in terms of the stress of people trying to find their passion, finding things they love. And I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think a lot of people do that. They go to jobs and they're just, sitting there, is this going to be it? Is this going to be it? And they're never happy. They're always stressed. They're constantly worrying. They're always doing their, 1 week goal, 2 week goal, month goal, year goal, and then they're always looking into the future. And I don't think that's a good way to do it. I think having goals and being forward thinking is positive, but in moderation. I think you need to enjoy the journey. If you don't know what your passion is, if you're not the kind of person who's just like, I want to sell real estate, or I want to write books and write novels, that's all I want to do. If you're the type of person who's just like, I don't know, I got a communications degree and I'm in a sales job, I played football in high school, I don't really know, I like Netflix,
right.
Then don't stress about, oh my God, like my next thing needs to be it or I'm never going to be happy. You just need to open up your mind, try things. Don't be handcuffed to what you're doing now. Don't get the golden handcuffs on, and if you're in a job that's paying you a decent salary and all of a sudden you get a really expensive apartment and you buy a really expensive car and then all of a sudden you can't afford to try things that are going to benefit you in the future and potentially make you happy. I think you need to go out, try things. If you're in a full-time job, try them on the side. Don't spend your time just drinking on the weekends or watching Netflix or playing video games. Take a class. Join a networking group. Start a podcast. Start writing. Start making film. Do whatever you think you have an interest in. Start with things that you're interested in. Everyone has an interest. What do they like doing? You like watching movies? Dig into that deeper.
And I think that brings up a good point, is that there may not be just one passion. You may not have one why throughout your entire life. I don't think passions and your whys are necessarily found, but I think they're developed over time. And I love. Go back to 6th grade science class. I think trial and error is one of the best ways to live. Because life is really, I don't want to sound too cliche here, but life is really all about the journey and through the ups and downs. And that's where your story is created. It's not, you don't have to think of that time as, I was just figuring out my why, so it was miserable, until you reach that threshold of, all right, my one why in this entire universe is complete. I think they develop over time.
Yeah.
And, some of the best conversations that I have are with senior attorneys, senior executives, people who have been around the business game for 30 plus years. And I talk to them about this conversation about the why and how'd you figure out what your passion was.
And
they kind of, I'll buy them a coffee.
You don't ask those questions.
I don't ask them. I talk about the subject. I don't like asking somebody what their why is. It's tough. But they tell me Brad, I'm still figuring out what my passions are. I'm still figuring out what my why is. And that really, really makes me feel good, because throughout the different stages of life, I think your why or your reason for working or your reason for living changes and it develops. So I think that's really the correct mindset that young, old entrepreneurs, you and me, need to be really thinking about.
Yeah.
And conscious of.
And the trial and error is extremely important. It goes back to just trying things. And people need to give themselves a break. Say if you try something, you tell everybody you're trying it. Everybody. Social media, your family, you're like, I just got this new job working, as an insurance agent. And I love it. Has anyone ever said that? Probably not. Probably should have used a different analogy.
But
But you tell everybody.
You get it.
You tell everybody, and then all of a sudden a year goes by, and you're like, oh my goodness, like I'm telling everybody I was happy in this job, but I really don't think I am. You need to have the courage and not care what people think, which is another episode, to be able to say, okay, I tried this, I liked it for a bit, but I don't think it's my passions. I want to move on to something else and try something different. You need to have the courage to do it for yourself and say, you know what? No, I'm going to move on to the next thing. And I think that's okay. Try something. If it doesn't work, recalibrate, try something else. And you need to find joy, which you touched on this a little bit, in the journey. You don't look into the future and say, I'm going to put my head down, and I'm just going to grind, and I'm going to grind, and I'm not going to be happy, and I'm not going to wake up and smell the roses until I actually reach this.
Waking up and smell
until I wake up and just reach this euphoric position where I'm making the exact amount of money I want to make. I have all I want to have. I'm having joy in every single thing I'm doing every day. If you live like that, then you're just going to be miserable, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're 50 years old and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? But if you take joy in your journey, everything that you're doing, the little things, you try something, guess what? Who cares? You had the courage to try it. It didn't work. Try something else. If you do that, then you have more courage than 99% of people in the United States of America or all over the world. Most people don't. They live in practicality. They work their 9 to 5s. That's it. They don't dream outside of that. So I think young people are pushing. There's a wave of trying new things, which is why what you touched on. And I think it's a good thing. If people want to try something, a job, and it doesn't work, it's okay to quit. It's okay to move on to the next thing.
But you're quitting for the right reasons. Don't quit because, somebody at your office gave you a mean look, or you weren't happy on Tuesday.
Right.
You know, if that's something that you're really not going to be, I guess the best word is passionate about focusing on for, the next year or 2 or 3 years, you gave it a shot.
Yeah.
It's really the right decisions, and I guess you're quitting or changing jobs for the right reasons, and not just because it's hard or you had a bad day.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. I mean, you need to dig down for what were the reasons that you took the job in the first place? What was the reasons you were pumped about it in the first place? If you have a couple bad weeks, you lose a couple clients, you're not making the money you wanted to make, maybe that's not the right reason to leave. But I'm a huge believer in trusting your gut. And it's tough to articulate. It's almost inarticulable in terms of the feeling you get when you know something's off. I've felt it a million times, and a lot of people don't trust it. They bury it deep down, and they continue on with their days. But if something inside of you is telling you that it's off, and you can't really put your finger on it, I don't know if it's in your gut, if it's in your heart, then that's a good indicator to start exploring that, because maybe whatever you're doing isn't right, and you should be exploring your other interests as opposed to just 5 years go by.
So in terms of advice, we're talking about how poor advice it is to tell somebody to go follow their why or try to have people dissect what their passions are. What would you tell your former self, or what would you tell a young entrepreneur starting a new career? What kinds of advice would you tell them to help them figure out what they need to be doing?
So if I was talking to a young kid in college, or even a high school kid, or even a kid who just recently graduated college, who's just trying to, find their way in life, I would say, well, don't care what other people think. And we've talked about this. We did a whole podcast about this.
But put the footnote in there. Don't care what people care.
Yes, obviously you're going to care what people think, but don't let that affect your decision making.
Boom.
That's the biggest thing. So I would tell people, don't worry about what other people think. That's a blanket. That should be over everything. And I think you say it's cliche, or you don't want people to follow their passions or look for their why. I think they should, as an overarching question, but start small. Don't, because passion just seems so aggressive. I say start with your interests. What did you like doing when you were little? Did you collect baseball cards? Yeah. Did you love sports? Did you love talking about sports? Did you love movies? Did you take a bunch of pictures on your little Kodak camera? What did you do? What are your interests? And then just start exploring them. Obviously, on top of this, you're going to need a job that pays you money. So, best thing I can always say is get a job that's in a field that you enjoy, if you can. Don't worry about how much money you make. Your 20s and 30s, don't worry about that. Build something. If you don't know what you want to do, just figure it out. If you think you may like working for a publishing company, you love books, you love reading, you love that business, maybe get a job as a, publisher's assistant, an intern. Do whatever you have to do. Bartend on the sides. Drive for Uber. Do Grubhub. Do whatever you have to do to pay the bills. But give yourself a break and just kind of try things.
That's a really realistic question. And now I love what you just said. Is you have to really, really dig down deep and figure out what you are good at, what you are talented at, and what you're not. You know, what are you gifted at? And everybody has gifts, whether they get so negative about, I wasn't born out here to do, this particular job. I think we all, inherently have gifts, but we also develop those gifts over time. And you got to think of careers out there that allow you, that will help you use those talents to help you succeed. So if you're a people person, maybe being a real estate agent is perfect for you. If you like to write, find a job that allows you to write, whether you're writing for a website, you're doing blogs, or you're writing letters or communication via email to clients. Find different aspects of the job that you can find joy in through your previous talents, and then kind of go from there. Because every job is not going to be so fulfilling in nature.
And using your talents is extremely important. You harped on that a little bit, and it makes complete sense because you say, someone could say, I've always been interested in playing basketball. I played basketball all my life. I really want to do something. If that person's 5'8" with not an ounce of athletic ability, you're not going to say, okay, go be a professional basketball player.
Right.
But there's a business aspect to being in sports, to being in basketball. You can do something with that. You can start talking about sports. You can start talking about basketball. You can write about sports. There's different ways to pursue your interests if you can't get the overarching thing of, I just want to be an NBA basketball player. But focus on what you're good at, use your talents, and use that to your advantage, and be practical in what you can do. And Gary Vee says it all the time. If he went with his ultimate goal of, he loved the New York Jets, he said if he had it his way, he'd be playing for the New York Jets. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the athletic ability, the height, or any of that, but he does have his voice, so he does use his voice. I think he owns like a sports agency now with his brother, and that's how he gets his love for the Jets in. So you need to be practical with what you're good at, but also be a dreamer. And you said, finding your passion is a aggressive question, and I agree, it is an aggressive question, but you still need to be a dreamer of sorts. In life, if you're not sitting there dreaming about what you want to do, what you think you should do, you need to change something, because that's, I think, is an aspect of gaining a lot of joy. It's just a matter of taking what you're dreaming about and what you want to do and then breaking it down to the micro, which is, okay, what do I do? If I want this, I'm interested in this, maybe I'll take a step in this direction. I'll do this. This goes back to trying shit. That's what you got to do. Just try a million different things. So if I was going to give advice to a young dude or a young girl, I would say, don't worry about what people think. If you're not passionate about anything, you don't know what your passions are, try things that you're interested in. Try them.
I think that's extremely important, because we all have to take a hard look at ourselves and realize what we are talented at versus what we are not good at. And you have to be real, and you have to own that. If you are a people person, what might be a good career for you? Be a real estate agent. If you are a writer, maybe be a copywriter for a publishing firm. Maybe write for if you're doing website design, or if you're in advertising. Find something that you can use those talents in your day-to-day career. Because all aspects of the job may not be perfect, but if you can find those little bits and pieces that you can provide value, and that brings me to my next point, is find out what you're good at, but also find out how you can provide value to the world. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what we all need to strive and figure out how we can provide value by... You're giving me a look, I don't like it.
No, I'm just waiting to jump in, waiting for a good point to jump in.
Jump in.
So, yes, I think you need to be realistic with yourself about what your talents are, what you're good at, and how you can provide value. But the flip side of that is, don't just shut off things you're not good at. So if someone's not a good communicator, but you want to do something that involves communicating, either written word or verbal, you can get better at it. Don't feel like just because you're not good at something right now that you'll never be good at it in the future. But you're right, it is better and more practical to go after things that you're good at, which your talents are going to help you. But I just don't want people to shut off that, I love working in marketing, but I can't write. So, forget that. I'm not going to try that. I'm going to do something else. No, you could still do that.
Exactly. But marketing is much more than just writing.
Right, but I was just using an example of turning something away just because you're not good at it.
But that's exactly a good point, because there's other aspects of the job that your talents or your passion for marketing can be utilized.
You can provide value in other areas.
Yeah, you can.
As you said, all about providing value.
Anything else we need to leave the kids with?
The kids, well, I don't like calling them kids because we're technically kids ourselves. 20, how old am I?
You're almost 29.
Well, by the time this comes out, I'll be 29. So I'm 29, he's 30, and we're still kids. We're young. We're still figuring it out.
It's all in my
I'll be figuring out when I'm 40. I'll be figuring out when I'm 50. It's a constant evolution of what you like, what you love. But also, let's take a moment, which we haven't talked about. We've been talking a lot about people who don't really know what they want to do. They don't know what they're passionate about. So how do they find their passions? What about the people who are passionate about something, but they don't have the courage to do it? Now that is also a small few. I mean, it could be a larger few. What do I know? But there are people who love things, are passionate about things, but they still do their practical day-to-day job without pursuing that. And to you all, I would say stop. If you love something, you need to go after it. You don't need to do it full time. You don't need, You don't need to all of a sudden
stop, quit, drop everything.
No.
But there's 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Just start somewhere. Start doing something that puts you on a path closer to what you're passionate about. And your 20s and 30s, don't worry about money. Don't worry about, I think society tells us, and we have friends who are like this. You reach your late 20s, you reach your early 30s, your late 30s, and you're like, oh my God, I don't have a family yet. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I wanted to have kids by the time I was 30. I wanted to have this amount saved up in my 401k by the time I'm 35. Oh my God, if I don't have that, then all of a sudden life's over. It's not. There's no timeline. Everyone is on their own timeline. Just because your buddy has a Mercedes at 26 doesn't mean you're going to have a Mercedes at 26, even if you want a Mercedes. Everyone is on their own timeline. You could be 35 and just be a bartender, but guess what? When you're 45, all of a sudden you've reached your dreams and you've surpassed everyone in the past who was driving those Mercedes when they were 26, 27, 28. So don't be worried about time. Life is long. This is another thing. Gary Vee says this all the time. A lot of people say, oh, life is short. Life is short.
A lot of Gary Vee shout-outs in this podcast.
I know. Most of our stuff is inspired by Gary Vee. But you say life is short, and life is short if you want to use that term and saying like, oh yeah, do what you love now because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. I agree with that. But also life is long. So you can try something all throughout your 20s.
You ever heard of this quote?
It doesn't work. Try something else. Try it for your early 30s. Try something in your late 30s. Guess what? You can be 40 years old. Stop. Start all over.
Let me leave him with something.
Leave him with something.
Patience and fortitude.
Conquer all things.
Great mantra to live by.
I like that one. Anything else to wrap it up?
I think that's it.
I think that's a good little podcast. This is a good little nuggets.
I enjoy it. I always love good little nuggets.
Finding your why. Finding your passion, extremely important.
We're dissecting it. Give us feedback.
Find happiness.
Shoot us an email. Shoot us a text. Comment on the page. Like, subscribe. All kinds of feedback. We're here. Bald Brothers Podcast.
Bring
it on, baby.
Life be the journey, guys.
See ya.
Take care.